Greetings, Hempster. Thank you for tuning in to another Hemp episode of Hemp Aware Radio. Tyler Hemp here, your hemp entrepreneurial host, here to empower and hemp-educate your hemposphere as usual for food, clothing, homes, energy, healing, you name it. You know hemp is the solution to some of the world's biggest problems. And on today's Hemp Educational Show, I have a special guest, Toni with Hemp Ecosystems. And I had a great call with him a few weeks ago discussing what he's doing, working with people and building hemp homes and structures around the world. And in fact, he's currently working on a hemp build in Portugal, which we'll be getting into in just a moment. But before we do, I just want you to know that Hemp Aware, we understand how hemp entrepreneurs and hemp companies can get distracted with too many hemp opportunities and different tactics out there on how to market your business. And with over 18 years of experience in both industrial hemp and marketing and branding, we are ideally positioned to help accelerate the success of your hemp company. So if you're looking for marketing advice or any type of services to help better brand your company to get more sales and attract your ideal clients, just go to hempaware.com and you can schedule a free demo call with us to see how we might help accelerate your growth so you can empower your community and customers even more. So in the spirit of supporting you and your business on your hemp journey, I'm honored and delighted to introduce you to Toni with Hemp Ecosystems and what he's doing to gain traction with his hemp building company. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Toni. I hope I didn't butcher your last name.
Hey, Tyler. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be on your show, and I look forward to getting on that call with you about marketing our products to the people.
Right on.
My last name is you said it almost correctly. It's Toni Laderach. So
Laderach. Okay.
There we go.
Nice. So I'm a wordsmith. I love the origins and meanings and power of words. And so it's funny because you're a builder, and builders often have ladders. And it's almost like it's a rack for a ladder, so you can bring it to the job site. But anyway, I digress.
Perfect.
So,
I like it.
I love, the topic of hemp building. Right now, our communities, the world at large is suffering from sick building syndrome. And as you well are aware, and most of our listeners are well aware, there's just so much toxic chemicals going into the building products, and not to mention the destruction and degradation of our environment through deforestation and all the lumber products that are being used. But we know that a lot of VOCs and toxic compounds are used in a lot of building materials. And so it's just so exciting to know that we have a solution, and you're actively working on hempcrete projects. And so I really look forward to providing, a solution to our listeners, and hopefully we can turn people on to some of your services. And I know you're currently working in Portugal, but before we get into some of the building projects that you're doing, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and where you're from and what you kind of studied and what brought you up to working with hemp in the first place.
All right, sure. Thanks. So I was born Swiss, grew up in South Africa for most of my life, and I've been traveling since 2015 after graduating as a civil engineer. I worked for about 5 years in South Africa after graduating on large construction projects, government projects, roads, bridges, water, dams, all these things. And I had this feeling that I needed to do something different. I just had almost a calling to say, get out there and change your path while you still can, while you're still young, or at least go and explore alternatives. So that's what I did. And I traveled from South Africa to Southeast Asia to USA, East and West Coast, back to South Africa, then returned to Europe, where, it all started, I guess. So over those over the past, say, 7 years, I've been, involved in becoming qualified in solar energy as a solar energy practitioner, done sustainability studies at the Solar Living Institute in Northern California. And, I heard about hemp for the first time. Well, hemp's cousin. I've always sort of, known about hemp. But hemp in construction, the first time I got exposed to that was actually at the Solar Living Institute in Hopland. And after that, it was a few months later that I was in Cape Town, and one of my American friends, Johnny, set up a meeting with Toni, who's also a hemp pioneer from South Africa.
With the
and we
Hemporium.
ended up broadly discussing hemp for almost 2 hours in his office. And when Toni heard that Tracy and I, Tracy is my wife, were planning to move to Switzerland in the new year to have our baby, he introduced me to the idea of building with hemp and sent me in the direction of Jorgen Hempel, who's the founder of Hemp Ecosystems. And he's been building with hemp since the early 90s. He's one of the original pioneers with Yves Kuhn and a couple of other guys. And anyway, so I met up with Jorgen in 2018 and started working with him on hemp lime projects and assisting him with marketing and, getting this amazing, wonderful product to the people. And so there's a few of us in the team. There's a couple of guys that have got a lot more experience than I do. But I've been learning as much as I can, from them. And because I have a background in construction and engineering, I've been able to pick it up a lot quicker than I'd say,
for sure,
the standard Joe.
Totally. That's awesome. So yeah, it's wonderful to hear you're working with one of the original hemp building experts, Jorgen, and absorbing his wisdom. And I mean, he's getting up there in his years now. He's in his 80s or?
He celebrated his 86th birthday with us in Portugal this year. He actually came.
That's so cool.
And we had a little celebration for him, and and he's still active in a way, on his own projects. And I almost have to sometimes, tell him not to come onto the sites anymore because it's difficult for him to walk up and down the stairs. And even though he's still got that, that burning passion to be there.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to see. And I hope that when I get to that age, I've still got the same amount of enthusiasm and drive.
For sure. That's cool. So you're surrounded by a wonderful group of hemp experts, hemp builders, and people that really care and have that passion. That's super exciting. So
Yes,
what would you say is your favorite thing about working with Hempcrete? Well,
that's a question. As a builder, there's a few things that usually, separate. We refer to Hempcrete as hemp lime, just because sometimes people get confused with when we introduce the word Hempcrete, they think about it as concrete with hemp inside it. So we've, as a company, we've changed not just us, but there's a group of people that have decided to change the terminology, and so we refer to it as hemp lime. I don't mind, referring to it as hemp lime, and you can refer to it as Hempcrete. I get it. So I just want to make it clear when I speak of hemp lime that it means the same thing as when you say Hempcrete. So the favorite thing as a builder, I think, because it's such a versatile material, it's lightweight and, it doesn't contain any cement, and it's very easy to work with, and it's very malleable. You can when you're building, you can make repairs, and you can versatile is the right word. So building sections of walls in obscure ways are not as challenging as other types of materials. And once you've put it into a form, you can pretty much create any shape with hemp lime because of these properties. And, that's what makes it pleasant to work with. It's got a lovely smell. It is 100% natural. So there's no waste after a site. At the end of the day, if you've got some hemp on the floor that's left over from, pouring it into the formwork, you can either put it in a bag and throw it in the mix for the next day into a fresh batch, or, if you need, you can throw it out in your garden or use it on your lawn or whatever. But, essentially it's a zero waste product. And that is something very unique in a building product, because usually at the end of a building site, or not even at the end, but during the construction site, there's skip loads of waste material that are being hauled out of construction sites on a weekly basis. And so this is something that I really love as a builder. And also, as I mentioned, all of the just being able to form it in so many different ways and shapes. And we're actually going through some lovely curves now on this Portugal project. So, there's a lot of beautiful things about the material to work with as a builder.
Yeah, and I appreciate that distinction, because many people are thinking when they hear hempcrete that it is a replacement for concrete, but it's important to recognize that this is not necessarily a weight-bearing type of material. It's more insulative. Is that right?
Exactly. And, especially in the first 28 days of its life. So hemp and lime, we use a product that's hemp herds, hydrated lime. So the purest form of lime, it's high calcium hydrated lime. And we produce an additive which allows that lime to carbonate and set a little bit quicker. And so within the first 28 days, the hemp and lime hasn't reached its full strength. It does take a bit longer than that as well, depending on the thickness of your walls. And yes, it is not a load-bearing material. So, it's not something that we ever recommend using to bear the weight of a roof. You'd always need a structural element, and then it's a filler material. So it's used as your insulation and building material that fills up between the structural elements of a building, and it can be used for walls, for floors, for roofs, and even we're pushing the limits with it all the time. I've met guys that have used it to make a bathtub, or to make a shelf, or a chair, or there's a whole range of things that are being unlocked, and the more people that are innovating and using their creativity and imagination, the more it's unlocking this material even further, for further sort of creations.
Right. That's a curious concept. Yeah, I mean, as far as a bathtub, so if once this material sets, if you're creating a bathtub out of it, is that something that you would need to seal off with another material, or I mean, how does that work?
Exactly. So once it's in its raw form, once you've removed the formwork, which by the way you can do instantly, and that's another thing I love about working with the material, is that you basically pack a form and you slip up the form immediately. You don't have to wait like you do with concrete. And so once it's gone through its curing stage, and the material has dried, and there's no more risk of any of the colors of the material pulling through the plaster, you would apply a lime and sand plaster finish, or you can use a clay finish. But in the case of a bathtub, for example, we would use a lime and sand finish, and then there's a process to do it, to plaster. It's not just something I can teach over a radio show, but it's a process which is mastered as an art, and it happens in layers. So you build up layers of lime and sand in different ratios, and eventually you get to a layer which you basically polish, and it has the ability to come out like a mirror finish, where you actually see the reflection, like I did on the hemp house in Hopland, California. can actually see the reflection of the sun and, of whatever. It's almost as a mirror on the plaster.
Wow, that's super cool. So what would you say are some of the limitations? I mean, we recognize that it's not weight bearing, so it's not going to replace concrete. But like, for example, the framework, could you use like steel, or would you only want to use timber framework, or any limitations, as far as hempcrete or hemp lime in general?
One can use any structural material. If we're using steel, it's necessary to coat it with something that is corrosion resistant, because lime naturally will oxidize steel.
Right.
Because it's taking out the CO2 and it reacts with steel, so it will oxidize steel while it's wet until it's drying.
Right.
So we would need, if you're using steel in the structure or a steel structure, definitely would need to be coated with an anti-corrosive material. You can find natural anti-corrosives, and depending on what type of steel is being used, we would find the best protector for that, which is available locally. And then there's the ability to use reinforced concrete, and then of course timber, there's stone, any other types of structural materials that one could think of.
Cool.
We would find a way to combine it with hemp lime. I mean, we can insulate concrete walls. Smooth concrete walls can be done with hemp lime if needed.
So in terms of a project, if someone were to come to you and say, hey, I want to build a hemp house, what is sort of the step-by-step process, or how would that look in kind of a nutshell if someone were to hire you and work on a project? What would that look like?
Okay, so, firstly, we would obviously get to know each other, find out details about the project. Is it a new build? Is it a renovation? Are we looking at, if it's a renovation, are we looking at stone? Are we looking at concrete? What does the client want to achieve from this material? What is their objective by using hemp lime? Why do they want to use hemp lime? Because people have different reasons. Some people may be more attached to the ecological benefits. Some may be attached to the insulative, the fire resistance, the the humidity regulating properties. So there's various reasons why people may want it. And, then one of the first questions, or one of the very important questions, is to find out the budget of the client, because oftentimes people, have this grand design in their head, and as soon as I ask, okay, what's the budget for your project? Do you have a budget? Sometimes they say, well, what's a budget? And it's like, well, a budget is, that's your cap. That's how much money you have to spend on your project. And it's good to know that as someone going into building a house, because, then we can decide, we can figure out together what is the scope of your project. If you're looking at building a 2,500 square foot home with the budget for a 1,000 square foot home, then hemp lime may not be your material, because it's not, just because it's a natural product doesn't mean that it's going to be cheaper. So anyway, it's basically getting through the project plan with the people, understanding their objectives, looking at their design, specifying materials for their project according to their climate zones, according to their budget, and then basically getting an estimate for them on materials, and then looking at the availability of labor, either from one of our already trained teams or, one of their teams. They might have a construction team, or some people that would like to build, and then, myself or one of our technicians could be sent to their site to work with them on building their home. So going through that process, figuring out the logistics, and then, at this stage in the USA, the supply chains are not yet at the level we have them here in Europe. So it's it's more difficult to get materials locally, but we're starting to create those supply chains. So, slowly but surely we're closing those gaps, and then it's figuring out the, time frames with the clients on where they want to start and finish the project, and what the reality of that looks like. And so just coming to terms with their project and their expectations. And, I hate to do it, but oftentimes it feels like you're popping a bubble, because people have one thing in their mind, and then, after a call, and I like to make sure that people get the reality of the situation, not to disappoint people, but to bring it down to reality. And not to waste people's time either, not to sell them something they don't need. I'm a firm believer in that. So, it's getting on a call, discussing the project, getting to know each other, and then moving forward from there, allowing the client to decide if they'd like to continue working with me, and or whether they'd like to go and find out a different answer from someone else.
Right on. So it sounds like you have a nice streamlined process, and if someone reaches out to you guys, you're at hempecosystems.org, is that right?
That's correct.
They can book a discovery call and kind of get to know you and see if their project and their budget is within reason. Whether we have people in Europe listening or the States, there's definitely ways that you can help them. So that's exciting. To kind of shift gears and, not so much hempcrete, but are you familiar with any other building materials or hemp wood type products, or have you been able to work with any other products other than hemp lime?
Well, I've gone through, I won't say all of them, but I've gone through a wide range of building materials over the years. So, from anything from concrete to steel, ceramics, petroleum-based, synthetics. But on the natural side, it's obviously, I've done cob, straw bale, what do they call it? Straw clay. It's like a slip clay. So I have, that's where my curiosity began, was there on those types of materials. And then I have, what's the hemp wools,
for insulation,
coconut husks and cork. So there's a huge range of products coming in now on the natural building side, which is wonderful to see.
For sure.
Usually they're coming in at a little bit of a premium, because we don't have the economy of scale as these huge, petroleum-based and synthetic products have. And so, people that are wanting a natural home naturally need to, look at paying anything from 10 to, 80% more for materials. It could be the same depending on the locality, but, because nowadays transport costs are increasing almost as we speak.
No kidding. Right on. So if someone wanted to kind of do a mixture of different materials, you obviously need the framework for the hempcrete, but you could use other natural organic materials in the building process.
Definitely. And in fact, that's even recommended in some cases. If you have depending on the design of your home, and this is where we go into design of home, and we work together closely with bioarchitects from, we've got Paul, we've got Michael Rice, Paul Richardson, we've got a few guys that we work with, and look to for inspiration. And if there's a project, we call on them if their skills or if their kinds of ideas are needed. And we work closely with other experts. You get heating guys and all these, a range of people that come out with these amazing ideas. And if you have a house, for example, that's got a wall that needs to be heated by the sun, it would be it would make more sense to use a denser material that's able to store heat, sun's energy. So something like a cob wall, rammed earth wall, that would store energy. Or if you've got heating pipes flowing through your home, through a wall, you store your heating in those kinds of materials, and then they allow the heat to emit through the house at a slower rate. And so you've got some kind of thermal battery inside your home. So there's definitely ways to use different types of materials and different applications. If you need to soundproof something, well, then you use something more dense. But acoustically, hemp lime is very pleasing. You might need to put a thicker plaster on the wall if you want to soundproof something. But these are all details that we can work through, and also link up the right people, the experts in each field, because we're not experts in everything. We can, but we work together and we work with other experts in the field. And if we ever have, if we've got work for some other guys in our network that are training or hemp lime experts, we would gladly hand over work to them. If I can't get to it in the United States, then I'll gladly work with one of our guys in the United States to execute a project successfully.
That's one of the really neat things about being in the hemp industry, is how collaborative and cooperative so many hempsters are. I mean, you'll find the select few that are all about the competition and they don't really care about the other elements. They're just in it for the money. But for those of us that are really about the environment and really transforming people's lives, it's really neat to work with other hempsters like yourself. So what would you say are some of the challenges that you've had building with hemp lime, and how were you able to overcome some of those challenges?
So, of course, as a builder, as a hemp builder, I'd say, to be honest with you, one of our biggest challenges is to keep our business going and to keep the work coming in, to be able to sustain the business, because it's not like we just have a queue of people, signed up for the next build, and so there is a lot of in between time where I know the time is coming where we're going to have a pipeline of work, but it's, right now we're at a stage of early adopters. And so, that's one of the challenges, is just keeping that construction business side of things ticking over and, keeping overheads down until, we are able to get that machine running. And then, another challenge is, and so in order to overcome that, we have to fit in and do other types of work, work with other experts on their projects when they have time. That's how I've been able to do it myself. So I speak for myself there. And then, we're selling a product, so availability of materials locally, as well as skilled labor in an area. And the way we are able to deal with that is, of course, localized supply chain, which we are constantly working on. And especially in the US now, we're really looking at localizing our supply chains. So we don't have to import things anymore, or at least reduce import. And then, training people, training labor, providing, training courses on site, or inviting people to come to our workshops wherever we have them, maybe in Europe or wherever there's a big construction site. And so, just figuring that out. I guess another thing, there's a few challenges. Client expectations, I already mentioned that one. Looking at client expectations on time, cost, and scope, while maintaining a quality product, because that's important not to drop the quality standard. So there's a range of challenges, and I can't say that it's always the same, because every project is different, and I guess that's the beauty of construction as well. It provides a range of experience. Every builder will know that not every site is the same. So from client to architect to designer to on the side workers. It's always a mix, and I guess that's fun.
For sure. So what are some of the ways that you guys are marketing hemp ecosystems to get more clients?
Wow. So I think, one of the most sort of effective ways at the moment is word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Just from one project to the next, working with specific architects. We have a book that we've published recently. I co-authored it with Jorgen. It's called the Hemp Line Handbook, and it's available on Amazon. And I think, once people read that, they're able to see just how simple this material is to work with and, understand what they can do with it. So it's really geared to serve architects, engineers, project owners, builders. So that book is definitely something that we use as a marketing tool. And then, on-site training workshops. They documented, there was a company called Lucky Dog Films that documented the Hopland build in California. And you can see that video on YouTube. If you go onto the YouTube channel, Hemp Ecosystems, it's called Building Off the Grid. So that's a little video that allows people to really see what a hemp build entails. Shows us, our team working together. Paul and I worked on our project together, and we trained a bunch of guys that had no construction experience. Some of them had almost none. Some of them had some. So anyway, that program can be seen. And then, social media. We have a few social media channels that we've got running, where we post pictures from, our guys up in Latvia. We've got Ujis up there, who's a complete expert at building with hemp and lime. He's one of our main experts there. They're building about 6 houses a year at the moment.
Wow.
And, he started off about 8 years ago, and also same struggles, man. And it's difficult to keep that pipeline full. And so, often it's touch and go with the guys, and it's just keep your head down, keep doing what you can, keep promoting the hemp, and eventually people start hearing about it, talking about it, and before long, you're going to have a pipeline full of hemp jobs, and, building the dream. So anyway, the marketing, it's basically those channels. It's word of mouth, publications, workshops, YouTube channel. We've got other social media channels, and then we have an email list that we send out to our readers or subscribers. But we probably need some marketing experts on our team.
And we'll definitely talk. I have some really great ideas, and would love to learn more about what your guys' goals are, and we could definitely talk about some ways to help drive more qualified traffic and convert those leads into buying customers. So I'm excited to talk to you about that later. And anyone listening on the show, if you've got struggles with getting more clients, more customers, more traffic to your website, there's some really simple ways to increase those numbers. So I'd love to talk. You can always reach us at hempaware.com. But if someone, Toni, wants to build their own hemp house, what would you suggest are some of the things that they should avoid and some of the things that they need to make sure that they do in that process?
So I think I mentioned this already, but don't assume that it's going to be cheaper or quicker because it's an Apple product. Okay, that's probably the wrong assumption to have. It's building a home is probably going to be one of the biggest investments that you're going to make in your life for some people. So, do it wisely and choose the products that have been tried and tested and that people are willing to stand behind. There's a lot of guys out there that are, and I've got nothing against it. It's just that because I would probably be doing the same. And, it's guys that are making magic mixes in their garage and, doing whatever's off the back of a few YouTube videos without really trying and testing their products. And there's a risk to that, especially when you're scaling that up into building a home, because you need consistency with your home. You don't want to have some mixes, sloppy, other mixes hard, other mixes falling. It's just, it needs to be consistent so that you can have, that assurance that your house is going to stand, and rest assured that you're going to have something that you've spent your money on well. And then, something, I don't know, more, how can I say, like less about the money and things and, all this other stuff is, it comes more from the heart, and that incorporates some beauty and simplicity into your design. Just, I think a lot of, after speaking to one of the leading architects in bioarchitecture, Michael Rice, it's the amount of inspiration that comes from just looking at his designs. It's incredible, and the beauty and simplicity that's in that. It's something that just, it touches people, and if you've got that in your own home and in your own design, and you're designing for yourself and for your own needs, it changes the entire process of building your home and living in it afterwards for the next, the rest of your life.
100 years, yeah, exactly.
So those are just a few things, and then another thing is have a budget, and don't be shy about the budget. I mean, it's a lot of people don't have as big of a budget as they'd want, but it doesn't mean that you can't get what you want, because by having a budget, we can figure out together how we can get it to work. It's often people think, if I tell you my budget, you're going to make me spend my budget, and it's like, well, not really. We're going to help you to make sure that you can have a house within your budget.
Yeah,
that's the whole point of a budget, is figuring out how we can do it. And if it's completely not, reachable, well, then unfortunately it can't happen. But oftentimes people will be surprised that it can be done. Because
like
materials make
up
a small portion of the total cost. The biggest portion is usually the labor in any project, or in most projects, unless you're working in, I don't know, slave labor, which is not happening anymore. But it's the truth. Like, the materials make up a small component, and the labor is usually the heavy part. So if you can get friends and family that can cover the gaps and do the little things and the little tasks that you don't have to pay someone to do, then that's awesome. And then, hire if you're wanting to build with hemp lime, hire a hemp lime expert earlier rather than later, and someone that's got experience. I've got a range of experience from solar design to natural building. So, and there's lots of guys out there in our realm, in our communities, that have got even more experience than I do. So it all depends, what you're looking for, what you want, and then get a guy, hire someone from the beginning, and it will help you, save a lot of headache and time and money in the long run.
Right. That's super helpful. I appreciate those insights. And just to kind of wrap up the show for today, I have a couple last questions. If there's many types, or I guess grades or specifications on hemp hurd, the fiber that's used in hempcrete or hemp lime. Are there certain specifications or things that you're looking for in the hurd itself, or is there something you want to avoid, or kind of what would be the ideal specs for a perfect hurd for a hemp lime build?
Okay, good question. So what you're looking for is, firstly, your hemp needs to be clean, so free of dirt. No dirt, and the way you test that is you take a handful of the hemp, you rub it together, and you can rub it on like a white t-shirt or white cloth, and there should not be any residual dirt on that cloth. And when I say dirt, I mean soil and muck. The hemp, so the color of the hemp is not important, because the color of the hemp is determined by when it is retted and how it is retted in the field. And so a lot of people, they see a darker herd, they sort of veer away or stray away from that. And, from our experience, that's not important.
Mm-hmm.
What's important is the dirtiness. Make sure it's clean. Make sure that the grading envelope of the hemp, so from the biggest herd to the smallest herd, is even. So an even grading envelope.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest, so we generally build with the hemp, biggest herd would be around about an inch,
Mm-hmm.
so about 25 mil. There are people
Mm-hmm.
building with bigger herd, saying that it provides better insulative qualities because it's a more porous mix. But just be careful with don't go too big, because it can destabilize the mix. You may need to increase your binder contents and things like this. So our optimal herd for building is from 25 mil, so 1 inch, down to about 5 mil, that grading envelope.
Okay.
And then you get a smaller herd, which is used for other applications. So we have, depending on the size of the herd, we have a different use for it. So our building herd is from, about 5 mil, 8 mil to about 1 inch, and evenly graded, more on the bigger side. And then free of too much fiber. So yes, there will always be a small amount of fiber in the herd. There will be, and it's not bad.
You mean the bast fiber?
Yeah, exactly. And because what that does, you can't get rid of all of it. It's probably impossible to. But you don't want to be having, big clumps of fiber, like handfuls of fiber. That's not good.
Right.
So you take a representative sample, and in there you may have less than 1% of fiber, like a very small amount. If there is any, if it's a very small amount, that's fine. But if it's like chunks of fiber, then you need to continue grading that hemp. You need to continue sifting that hemp.
Got it.
Getting that fiber out of there.
That's super helpful. There's these little nuances that really make a difference in the build, and that's why, like you said, hiring a hemp building expert would be essential. Even if you have a contractor or someone that you're working with, to bring on a hemp building expert would be essential to make sure that you don't waste people's time and money and get something you're actually happy with. So thank you, Toni. You've been super insightful and helpful. Please plug the website again, and where can people get a copy of the book? You mentioned going on Amazon. Please, how can people get a hold of you and learn more about what you're up to?
Sure. So people can contact us directly. If you email us at info@hempecosystems.org. Send us an email, and we could set up a call. I'll be glad to get on a call and discuss a project. I'll throw in the first 15 minutes for free, or first call for free, just to get to know. And then on our YouTube channel, Hemp Ecosystems YouTube channel, go and take a look at some of those videos that we've been posting. And hempecosystems.org, www.hempecosystems.org. Take a look through the website. Familiarize yourself with all the content we have available there, which we actually, a lot of it is for free and just accessible to people to learn about what we do. We have started there's a portion of the website that's available to club members, and it's a very small fee. I think we charge $20 or $30 a year, it's a biannual membership, and that basically it's a donation to support us in what we do, and we offer I think it's a 5% discount on your next consultation. So it just allows you to more of the back end of the website, the calculator, to budget just the basics of your project. So go and take a look at the website. It's quite a deep one. It's been developed over a few years, and that's the way to get in contact with us.
I really appreciate you coming on the show, and we're just wrapping up now, coming to the end. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Toni, and thank you, Hempsters, for tuning in to HempAware Radio. Tyler Hemp here, your Hemp entrepreneurial host. Looking forward to seeing you on the next Hemp episode. Make it hempin'.